Welcome to the Christian Romance Podcast, where we go behind the books with inspiring Christian romance authors, exploring faith, love, and the journey that brings the story to life. I'm your host, Kelly Jo Wilson, and today we're chatting with Patricia Johns. Patricia is the beloved author of over 56 inspirational Amish and sweet romance novels that have touched readers' hearts across the globe. Since publishing her first Harlequin romance in 2013, she's become a Publishers Weekly best-selling author, known for her heartwarming stories that blend faith, love, and real-life challenges. Writing from her cozy home in Alberta, Canada, Patricia shares life with her husband and son and a whole lot of books. With multiple releases each year, her stories continue to inspire and uplift with every page. Be sure to stay tuned to the end of the episode so you can hear about our newest book giveaway. Now, here's my conversation with Patricia. Hi, Patricia. I am so happy to have you on the Christian Romance Podcast today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yes, I can't wait to hear more about your story and your stories that you write. You've written so many wonderful, beautiful books, inspirational, sweet romances, Amish romance. I can't wait to hear more about it. Why don't you let our listeners know a little more about you, how you got started, what your faith journey looked like in your journey of becoming an author, and just a little bit more about the kind of books that you write.
Sure. Well, I write Amish romance currently, but I've been writing for years and years. So with a writing career, markets change. You as a person and as a writer change and develop and grow and learn more about the world around you, learn more about your own thoughts, your own opinions. And so my writing has obviously changed and developed as I've gone. Right now, I've landed pretty solidly in Amish romance, and I'm really, really enjoying it. My faith journey, I suppose it really is just sort of followed my personal life. You know, how you learn more about God as you go through different life milestones. You meet the guy you're going to marry, you get married. I have one child. We weren't able to have more than the one. And it's all of that. I find that I'm a different woman now than I was, before I met my husband. I was much, much younger. I'm a much different woman now. So I think that I'm a different writer now as well, just because writing is so incredibly personal. It comes from your heart. And as you mature and you learn, you become probably a better writer. I would like to think a better writer as I understand the world around me a little bit better, but a deeper writer and just maybe a more mature writer. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely, especially because, it's different when you add the Christian element into it. I feel like God takes you through so many things in life. It's almost like different lifetimes. Don't you feel like that?
Yeah, definitely different phases. We
Yeah.
were talking before we hit record about I have a 17-year-old son, and my husband and I have a 17-year-old son. I always make myself sound single when I say that. I'm not single. I'm very married. But I find that this stage of parenting, it's like everything is different. Like everything has changed. I had a handle on the medium-sized kid parenting, and then it it tips upside down and it changes again. So yeah, I feel like different phases. And then after this one, there's going to be like a whole new phase. There's going to be the empty nest, and I know it's coming. And I try to prepare myself. I know it's coming, and I know that it's going to change me all over again. And yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. The empty nest. My oldest niece is about to go to college in the fall.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness, it is like, it is hard.
Yeah.
So my heart is with you for sure.
Thank you.
Trying to soak up all these moments,
Yeah.
all these times. But yeah, the empty nest, I feel like is something that not a lot of people, I feel like, I don't know. I just don't hear many people like talk about it, because I can imagine it could be hard, because then it's like you kind of discover time with your spouse again too.
I imagine. Yeah. I'm not there yet, but I imagine it was going to be just me and my husband at that point. And yeah.
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 It's just different. Like you said, different phases. And it's just so funny how the things that you're learning or that you've learned thus far, like goes into the story that you write. It's just
Mhm.
like different phases of your own life. A lot of authors, and I'm curious to hear what you think about this, say that it's like a surprise for them too. Like once they're like co-creating with God and praying through it, and sometimes you're writing, whether you're a plotter or a pantser or however you write, it's still like he can surprise you with
Yeah.
the theme or something that comes out. Do you feel like that? Does he surprise you sometimes?
Yeah. Well, I find that I sort of, at this point, I expect for things to turn out not quite the way I've planned. So I am a
Mm.
big plotter. I plan everything, and my editors love that because they know what I'm going to be giving them. But I do find that when I'm writing, something will change. And I always say I plot it in pencil, not pen, because something is going to change. And you just go, ooh, that is good. And all of a sudden, or you have an insight. You think, oh, yeah, this is the lesson I want this character to learn. And you realize that's not the lesson they're going to learn at all. It's going to be something completely different, something deeper and more vulnerable and more subtle. And I feel like that's God coming through, because
Mm.
I often think I am not as smart in person as I am as a writer. I'm like, when you have that, like, you're praying about it and you're working on a book, yeah, things come out that I feel like I look back on that book and I'm like, wow, that's smarter than I am.
You're like, where did that come from? That's
Yeah,
so funny that you
like
say
that's
that. Yeah.
great. I just don't feel like that
I
was.
I don't remember I wrote that.
Yeah.
Did I write
I,
that?
I feel like that one didn't originate with me, So yeah.
Oh, that is so funny. That is such a good point. I feel like he does that all the time.
Hmm.
He's just all the time. And it's so funny. And I've had other authors say that as well. And I feel like it's just so amazing to be like co-creating alongside him. But sometimes I would imagine as a plotter though, it could be kind of frustrating because you're like, oh my goodness. I love that you're just going into it now expecting it. Like, no,
Yeah.
I'm gonna plot this. I'm like you said, plotting in pencil.
Well, this is my 56th book. So it used to be more traumatizing before. Now I just expect it.
Now you're just like, it's okay.
It'll be my editors will roll with it. They'll be fine, because also once I hand the book in, then the editors get their hands on it, and they will often, like, we'll then discuss, and they'll look at what I've got, we'll discuss, and I might do some rewriting of parts where they say, you know what, we really feel this came across in a certain way, and I'll look at it and go, ooh, they're right, it really did, and that was not my intention. It came, like, this character came across maybe less compassionately than you'd intended. Things like that. And so, or, this, they want, look at a different way of making this plot work. And you go, okay, so there can be some major changes there's the version that I write, just me and God. And then there is the version of the book that comes about me and the editors as we look at stuff. And a good editor is just worth her weight in gold, because they can look at your book, see where you're going with it, and then they have ideas and they go, have you thought of this? I did not, but that's fantastic. Right. And
Absolutely.
so you have this back and forth where really good editors can see where you're going and what you're trying to do, and can help you make it so much better. They aren't doing the writing, but they can talk to you about, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? What if this happened? What would that mean to your story? Would you be willing to do that? So your book changes again. So by the time this book hits the shelves, it has been a group effort between the author and God, and then the author and the editors, and then the editors and all the other people in the publishing house that do all these brilliant,
yeah.
all the different layers,
cover designer,
of editing and the cover and everything
sure.
else. Yeah. So it really is a huge group effort by the time it comes out. And I'm quite humbled by that, because sometimes I've had people say, you know, like as an author, you make actually such a small percentage of the amount that somebody, you know, like the cover price, such a small percentage of that cover price comes back to you as the author, and you're the one who wrote the book. And it's like, yes, but you don't understand the team that is behind that. You know, like there's an absolutely brilliant team working with you, and yeah, it's not just the author. So yeah.
Yeah, I like that you said that, because it's funny because I feel like there's such a stigma of writers like writing like this fictional view that a writer is so alone and like
The
in this
quill
like
pen.
misty, yes, with a quill pen and
yes.
like a dark room and you know
Yeah.
just by themselves, and then they write this masterpiece and it goes out and everything. And maybe that was like that. I mean, I would imagine it was kind of like that in the early days of
Jane
you know
Austen.
getting yes, Jane Austen. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But now it really is very team oriented.
Mhm.
There is a lot of time that it can be solo. You know, you are writing alone, and that's why it's good to have like writers groups or critique group or just
Yeah.
friends, other
Yeah.
friends of
Support.
yeah, for support, because it is kind of an odd job.
Mhm.
You know, not a lot of people can understand
It
like
is.
the team effort, but then also like, you know, meeting these deadlines and coming up with these stories and you know but I love that you mentioned that, because it is, there are so many people that go into it, whether you're indie published or traditional published. You know,
Mhm.
the difference, you know,
Mhm.
with the indie is that you have to collaborate, get those,
You've got to find your team.
yeah, you find your team.
There's still a
Exactly.
team there, but you got to find your team. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, some authors have wonderful creative vision as well and can do their own
Mhm.
book covers. I have a friend who does her book
Oh,
covers and she's
yeah.
unbelievable. She has like this art side and the writer side to herself, and she's
Mhm.
amazing. But that is very few and far between who people can really do that well, I feel like. So,
I admire indie authors for that, because they have to be
mhm,
good at so many things.
yeah.
I kind of joke I'm a one-trick pony, right? There's one thing I'm good at, and I do it well, you know. But but indie authors have to be good at all of these different aspects of getting this book out, and they've got to be good at it. And a lot of them are just phenomenal at it, and I'm always so impressed because, yeah, it takes a big tool belt to be able to do that, and they do it.
Yeah,
So
for
yeah,
sure. They do it, or they, you know, hire somebody with the, it's not a bad
yes,
thing, I feel like, to
not
be,
a
you
bad thing to
know,
hire.
yeah,
Yeah,
not a bad thing to hire for sure, but it's not a bad
yeah.
thing to be just focused on the writing. I think that's probably every indie author's dream, is just to be able to focus on the writing. Nobody likes doing the, you know, trying to
The
sell it kind
rest.
of piece, but um you know, just let me, you know, give me my laptop and put me off in a dark room, really, with
Yeah.
maybe in front of a fire, and then I'll come out and say hi to everybody. But yeah, no, but it's good. I love that you said that about the team, because it gives a nice you know, a picture, because it's true, it gives everybody
Mhm.
the credit. It's so important, and everybody has such a wonderful heart for the story. I mean, I feel like that's so
Yes.
exciting. That's why I love this, doing this podcast and talking with you and wonderful authors like yourself, to really give light to these stories. It's a lot of work. It's amazing, and God put this on your heart for a reason. And I just, you know, it's amazing to just celebrate. And 56 books, my goodness, we have to celebrate that. I hope you and your husband need to go out to dinner and celebrate that for sure.
Celebrate. We celebrated the 50th book.
Oh,
Um,
that's beautiful.
yeah, we felt like something had to be done. So we celebrated the 50th one. And sometimes as authors, we're very bad at celebrating, right? We're terrible
Yes.
at it. And so like we have to sort of learn how to stop and like celebrate the win, because you sit in a corner by yourself like a little gremlin. Right?
Like a little
Crafting
gremlin.
stories in your bathrobe, right?
Just writing, yeah.
Writing. And it's easy to get so caught up in the imaginary worlds in your head that you forget to step into your own world and celebrate, you know?
Absolutely, yes. I actually have a folder. I call it my motivation folder. So
Yeah.
whenever, you know, on those days that are hard and things, I go back in there. I've printed a couple things up, like from either from readers or just from people, you know,
Oh,
emails.
that's smart.
Yeah, just, and also things from my husband and from my son, you know, writing
Aw,
like
yeah.
nice notes or something like that. Just, you know, sometimes you need that. You need that
Mm-hmm.
reinforcement a little bit, because days where it's hard.
It is. Yeah. It's true.
You're so fun, like a little gremlin. I love it. I know. You have to celebrate. I know, because it's so well, how many books? You write a lot of books. So 56 books
I
is
do.
so many. So usually what's your average that you're writing per year?
5 or 6.
See, 5 or 6 books
5
a
or
year, that's
6.
busy. So that's that.
It's very busy.
Yes,
Yeah.
very busy. Very
It's
busy.
full-time plus. And I've been trying lately to have more balance. So I'm trying to take like a week off at a time sometimes
Oh,
so that I can
good.
have like, people have vacations. Maybe I ought to as well, So when I'm not like, don't just save it for the flu. I've got the flu. It's called a vacation. No, the flu is not a vacation. Right. So I'm trying to schedule it in, like, what, I'm working hard right now, but I will take a week off, like, with my family on spring break or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Then I can have that to look forward to. And my family knows that it's not just going to be like a mom being a gremlin in the corner. She will actually come and do things with them when they have like that time off. So I'm doing my best to get some balance there.
That's good. Yes, do that.
Yeah.
Give yourself some grace because you deserve it for sure. You work very hard. It is
I
very
do.
hard though. You're so funny. Oh my gosh. The flu is not vacation. Well, yes,
It's not.
it is.
It is. Sometimes it has to be because, like, I'm sorry, there's another book due, and so sometimes the flu has to be the vacation. But
Yes.
you try not to let the flu be the vacation.
Exactly.
Do your best. Yeah.
Nobody wants that. That's so funny.
No.
I do. I write. I do like creative writing for my Christian romance writing
Yeah.
outside of my day job hours, which is a medical writer. So it's so funny because it's like very different.
Very different.
Because I'm a nurse, but I have been so blessed to be able to work from home as this medical writer too, and then have some more time for that too. But yeah, I find because it's very assignment based, and like you said, when you have deadlines, you're like, okay, I have deadlines, I have to get to this. So it's
Yep.
not, you have the autonomy to like choose your time and things. And I feel like with that, I just work more because it's easier because you're working at the times on the things that just need to get done kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard for me to be like, even take vacation days sometimes at work because I'm like the same way. I feel the same exact same.
I think because we don't have a commute.
Yeah.
Right? There's no commute to delineate. This is work day. This is not work day.
Yes.
You don't like drive into your driveway and say, and now I am home and this is different. Walk into the other room and then you walk back.
Exactly.
And you get bored and you go, maybe I should just get a little more done because I'm kind of bored. And you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
so
totally.
it's harder to have that work-life separation.
Yep.
Because it's all at home. Yeah.
Absolutely. I totally understand what you're saying. Exactly. Absolutely. It's easier to just kind of work on it. I don't know. And when you like the work, like when you're liking what you're doing, like I love being a medical writer for the company that I work for. I love my team. Same thing with the other piece. I love being able to have this podcast with you and chat with you, and like you said, when you are living your dream kind of thing, it's like, I'll just do it. It's no big deal. Saturday? What's that?
It's hard to be balanced. Yeah. What's a weekend?
What's a weekend? Who needs weekends?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, what got you? So out of these 56 books, so you said you write Amish romance now. So what got you interested in the Amish genre?
Well, I was doing a lot of cowboys and I was getting a little tired of doing cowboys, and my editor had mentioned, she said, have you considered writing Amish? My dad's side of the family is Mennonite.
Oh.
And so there was that Anabaptist roots and, the big respect for us here in Canada. We don't have Amish, but we do have old order Mennonites and Hutterites. And so it's the same sort of idea, right? With some differences, but I mean, like horses and buggies and whatnot, right? So I used to visit this old order Mennonite community with my aunt, and so there was a lot of that sort of in family history and stuff. So I felt a little drawn to the Amish stuff just for those memories. For a while, I really pushed back against it because I wanted to do something different, and I didn't. Sometimes they say write what you know, but that can be boring.
Where's the fun in that? Yeah.
I was a little stubborn. I kind of pushed back against it, but then I thought, you know what? I'm going to give this a try. And so I had actually already told my Harlequin editor, you know what? I don't think I want to. I do have the family history and stuff that would give me a little bit of just insight into the Anabaptist and some similarities that you could sort of look into. But I said, I think maybe I will just sort of continue on with cowboys. And then, so I kind of locked myself in there. And then I thought, all right, let me give this a try. So I wrote an Amish romance. I sent it to my agent. She shopped it around, and it got picked up at Kensington. So Kensington Books picked it up. And then we circled back around when it came out and talked to my Harlequin editor and said, hey, so I did a thing. What do you think if I were to do? Because once I wrote that Amish romance, I was like, oh, I was so silly not to have pursued this sooner. So then we talked to that editor and she said, okay, yeah, come on. Send us, see what you got here. So, and then it went from there. But yeah, like I can't say that I will for the rest of my days always write Amish. Being a career writer, you have to be flexible. There are books of my heart that I have written and my agent has shopped around and they have never found a home. It's not always about what you would love to write. It's also about what people want to read. And as a career writer, you've really got to be willing to pivot when what people want changes. And you've got to be able to say, okay, well, they're not wanting this. So I need to pivot. Right now, I'm really happy. I'm in my element. People are loving Amish, and I'm really loving to write the Amish books. If that changes and people's taste for books changes, I will have to change with it. But right now, it's very nice.
Wonderful.
This is the sweet spot. This is the sweet spot.
Yeah, but I love what you said. It's more about serving the reader, right? It's what readers really want to what they're already reading, meeting them kind of where they are, but then still being able to use some of your own, use your creativity in there and try something new. I imagine, as a career writer, my goodness, I can't even career writer, that you would have to kind of be flexible like that. And it also sounds like it fun. It just sounds fun to be able to.
It is fun.
Yeah, because cowboys are fun. But then
cowboys are fun.
when you're done with cowboys, you're like, hey, what's going on here with the horse and buggies?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I live right outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So we have a pretty big, we have a lot of Amish within the state. So we have Amish by us. It's more in Lancaster County is probably like the larger population. But when I was a nurse in the hospital, we used to take care of a lot of Amish families too, because they wouldn't have the main, like there wasn't like in the middle of the state, there's either like Philly, they could go like left or right basically. So they would come. Yeah. So, and they were always so wonderful. The families were so kind. And, I love that like simple kind of lifestyle that they have. I think it's just so beautiful how they can, it's all about family. It's all about supporting each other, just living simple lives, living off the land, with God, was there anything that you found within like your research that surprised you about like the Amish?
I don't think that's anything that terribly surprising. I've been writing Amish for a while, so your research is sort of layers on top of research, and it keeps going. So I'm hard to surprise these days with it. But one of the things that I really love about the Amish culture is that they don't keep up with the Joneses, and I feel like that is a major pressure that we in just regular mainstream North American society deal with, is the keeping up with the Joneses sort of mentality. And it is high pressure. It's frustrating when you feel like, oh, well, we have to do this or we have to do that. What will people think if we don't? And the nice thing with the Amish culture is that they don't, like, they make an effort not to do that. Everybody is the same. That's why they dress the same. Right? You don't have anyone with a nicer dress. You don't have anyone with a better cut dress. it is the exact same pattern that everybody uses. It's the same colors that everybody uses. They wear the same shoes. In fact, in my research that I've done, they say how Amish communities will come together for something and everyone will take off their bonnets and their shawls, for example. And they will often put like maybe their initials on some little place or a little dot, a little red dot or something, so they know which shawl is their own. But sometimes they will end up, oh shoot, I got the wrong shawl, and then they have to go to the other person's house and swap shawls because everybody's stuff is the same, right? There is no and if somebody is struggling, the community pulls together to make sure they get what they need to keep everybody on the same level. And I find that really beautiful because it really does take away the competitive nature that we don't even think about in our modern society, but we are all in competition for, the niceness of our home, the vehicle that you drive, where you go on vacation, what your kids are wearing, all of these things. It's just the subtle competition. Like you were talking about how the age of your kids, like, the mom's in front of a school when you're picking up your kids from school. I'm no longer in that phase, but I do remember the subtle competition of where do you live and what are you driving and whether you're, you know what I mean? It's a constant one-upmanship that we just get used to doing or refusing to do, but feeling the pressure of it around us. And I love it that the Amish culture doesn't have that. I think that's one of the draws of why people enjoy reading the Amish romance is for that aspect of community that truly isn't in competition. And if there is some sort of subtle competition going on, they recognize this is wrong and we shouldn't be doing it, even if it exists on a human level, because, the Amish are human too. But yeah, that's one of the things I wish we had that we could take from the Amish culture to our own.
Oh yeah, that absolutely makes so much sense. And it's so true because that competition can be so toxic. And I feel like, especially as women, we just look, we always want to be doing the best that we can. And whenever we see people doing different things or something, it's like ingrained. Like we're so hard on ourselves. Like, I should be doing this. I'm not good enough here. I should be, look at her. She has it all together. When in reality, that other woman is going, look at her. She has it all together. Like we're just so, it's just, it is ingrained in us, I feel like. And it's so that is refreshing to have a community where it doesn't mean that everybody's the same and you don't matter. It's everybody's the same because everyone matters. And, and I think that it is, you're absolutely right. That is so beautiful. And that simplicity and just the genuine human nature, like true humanitarian nature, I feel like is absolutely the draw to Amish romance. I know my mother-in-law loves Amish stories. She gets so into them, probably for that same reason too, because it's just beautiful. Well, why don't we talk a little bit about your book, The Green Pastures? Tell us about the hero and the heroine. What is going on in this book? Because this heroine, I got to hear more about her. She seems tough.
Okay. Well, Green Pastures is a little bit of romance and a little bit of women's fiction. So it's not just a straight romance, which I normally write. It's got a bit of a women's fiction element to it as well, but it does have a romance that follows all the way through. So what this book is about a Amish woman who left the faith, married an Englisher guy, became a veterinarian, a large animal vet, and then got divorced. And she has gone home. Now, as an aside, for the Amish, there is no divorce. You can legally divorce somebody, but they're like vows before God are trump any kind of, legal thing you might have done. So they don't believe in divorce. And her being divorced, no one can identify with this. Now, the divorce was not her fault. Her husband had been cheating on her. He chose the other woman. He was not going to choose her. There was nothing she could do about this. And so she's in a situation where she comes back to her home community and she's convinced that she really needs to come home and come back to the Amish faith, even though there are going to be consequences. Like she will live single. She will not be able to remarry. this is it for her. She simply has to find her place and see where she's going to settle in. So she comes back. Now, she left behind 2 sisters. And when she left, her leaving left a big impact on her sisters. One sister got married, and she is, she outwardly seems to be doing just fine. The other sister was not able to get married. Every time Tabitha Schrock came back to visit in her blue jeans, it blew apart whatever was happening for poor Amanda. So Amanda was not able to get married, and she feels she's in her old maid years, and this is it. So when Tabitha comes back, she decides, you know what? I am tired of being the good girl and sitting around and waiting for some man to court me. I'm going to do something about this. And so she takes things into her own hands. And there is a man who is looking for a wife, and he is problematic. People are like, oh, really? He wants a wife. Well, good for you.
Good luck.
He is problematic. And Amanda says, you know what? Apparently I'm problematic too, because I'm still single. Right. And she decides to take a couple Tupperware containers of her best baking and introduce herself to this problematic fellow. So that is the romance that takes you through the book. Amanda saying, that's it. I'm going to have to do something about this and get my life jump started. So the book follows the 3 sisters. The married sister finds out that marriage is not as easy as she thought. It's not just about being pretty and baking well. Right? There's a lot more to it. And so she discovers that. And Tabitha has to figure out how she's going to settle into Amish community and what it is that she's going to bring to the table, because she's not coming in the traditional sense of I shall get married and I shall have children and I'll settle into the very family children oriented Amish culture. So yeah, so it's about women who are trying to live a good life in a very imperfect world.
I love that, because it's so interesting to think about it in the Amish space, because you can easily see that in like, say, contemporary romance where it's set in the world today, like just, in New York or a city or something like that. But even in the Amish communities, there's imperfection, right? Or there's things that they are facing as a community that deals with this. I'm curious about the Tabitha, the sister who got divorced and then goes back, chooses to go back. If there's judgment, is there judgment kind of from the family? Because I feel like with Amish, because they're so community oriented, I feel like it's just in our nature to judge what we don't understand as a human, right? But like, I feel like the Amish would be a little bit more gentle about it. What is that like for Tabitha?
Well, for her, it is sort of a more gentle type of judgment, but it's there just because the women don't understand it. Her friendships, like one of her very good friends that she was friends with before she left when she was a much younger woman, is now married with 7 children. Right. And so her life is completely different. She is divorced with no children, and she has literally nothing left in common with this friend. And there is that little bit of, as she's talking to the other women and stuff, there is that little bit of, well, she must have done something wrong if she couldn't keep him. Kind of attitude, right? Because we are still married, right? And they, so she does face a little bit of that, but they also have to struggle with, one of the things she points out to them is this does happen in the Amish communities. We just don't talk about it. Sometimes there'll be a man who will decide to leave his Amish family for an Englisher woman, and off he goes. And that leaves that Amish woman single for the rest of her life, unless the fellow dies, So it does happen. And so she's talking to the women about that, and she's telling them, these things do happen. So they were saying, well, what are the warning signs? And she was saying, well, her husband, he hid a lot of things. There were lots of secrets, things that weren't her business. And so she left it alone, because of being raised Amish, there was men's things, there was women's things. And so she left it alone, and she was, okay, that's fine. That's men's stuff. And she didn't, like, he was able to hide so much and he wanted to hide so much because he had something to hide. And so she was talking to them about this. And the problem there is that in the Amish world, a woman's gentleness and her trusting nature are her glory. It's also her husband's greatest treasure is her gentleness and her ability to trust him, right? So, but that is also a woman's greatest vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a man who wants to take advantage, if there's a man who has no intention of staying faithful, or just has an inclination not to be faithful and thinks, well, what she doesn't know won't hurt her. These sorts of things, a woman's deeply trusting nature and gentleness then become her biggest vulnerability. And so when you have a culture that really emphasizes these characteristics in a woman, and girls are raised to really cultivate these aspects of their personalities, that works beautifully when you have strong, faithful, God-fearing men who behave like faithful, God-fearing men who these women can truly trust with their hearts and their lives and everything. It works beautifully. But what happens when the men don't meet that standard? Right. So there's things like that I look at in the book, where there is the ideal, right, of what we would love to all have this particular ideal, and then there is the reality, which is not all men are good men, not all women are good women. Do you know what I'm saying? There's the reality, there's the ideal, and then there's a lot of people who don't meet the ideal. And so that's sort of the struggle with the book, is how do you live a good life that will please God when the world around you falls short of the ideal?
Oh yeah. And that has to be, I'm just like putting myself in her shoes real quick. And it just, I can't
So did
imagine because it's lonely there. It's
Yeah.
very lonely. It's lonely on both ends. It's going to be, it's lonely. She like has she foresees like the coming loneliness of not being able to marry again in this faith. But then it's lonely because nobody understands her. Nobody understands what she's going through. And they all have a little bit of that, right? All the sisters have a little bit of that. You know, the one sister probably doesn't want to talk about how the difficulties in marriage, because nobody talks about that, because that's not for the wife to say, right? And then I love the Amanda who's like baking, and like she's like, I'm gonna kind of go for the bad guy a little bit. The rebel guy a little bit. You know, she's like just curious. So that sounds so amazing. It sounds very, very interesting, and just dealing with real stuff. And that's what I love about it. I think it just deals with so many things that we all kind of harbor and we all really struggle with, because like you said, how do we live this life of faith? And we're trying to do the things, but then people even in our own household are not, like with Tabitha, like are not doing these things. What do we do then? What is the direction? And
when she really is forced into a corner, like I put myself, I haven't gone through that specifically, but I really put myself in her shoes, thinking, how would I feel if this marriage I trusted, right, just blew up on me? Where would I be? And it would just be so gut wrenching. But in the middle of it all, there's always God. And it's like these things happen, and it's terrifying for us. Like, what happens if my beautiful life that I love so much blows up in my face? What then? But there's always God, and he takes our mess and he redeems it. And he takes, the messes that weren't our fault, that the people around us maybe created, right? That he takes those messes and he can redeem them. He's not done with us. Our lives are not over. There is still beauty to be had, and there is still a future. Now, this is a mini series, and I'm right. This is the first book in a mini series.
Oh, wonderful.
And Tabitha we're not done with Tabitha. We're going to follow Tabitha through all 3 books. So she's going to be okay eventually.
That's good. I love it.
Yeah. So don't worry about Tabitha.
Yes.
But so I will be following her. But it's like God just doesn't leave us there. And
Mm-hmm.
in these books, God does not leave them there. And there's always redemption through our pain. And there is always the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh
It's
yeah.
always there. So, and it's how they all find that. They all find God's goodness in their lives right now, even if it's not perfect.
That's just wonderful. And it's so true. I think it's hard for us in the midst to see it sometimes, like the goodness of
Mm-hmm.
God. It's so weird that you said the goodness of God. This is how he works, okay? Because just this morning at the Bible study, in my Bible study that I was doing this morning, is talking about the goodness of God. Like, oh, he is so
Yeah.
good. And he is. And I love that. You're so right when you say that he does redeem, he puts the broken pieces back
Mm-hmm.
together in a way we could never even fathom. And it just makes
Yes.
me think of that verse, how God works everything together for good for those who love him.
Yeah.
And he really does. He takes things, messes that we make,
Mm-hmm.
and just finds a way to work it together for good, to thread it in a new way. And it's just very exciting.
It's
Uh,
never how we'd imagine either. It's
yeah.
hard for us to foresee how he's going to do it, but he does, and he
Yes.
always does.
He
Yeah.
absolutely does. He absolutely does. 100%. We are almost at time, but before we go, I wanted to ask you just on that topic of how God is redeems, and like you said, he kind of puts our messes back together. Was there a Bible verse that either really resonated with you during writing this book, or even just in your author journey?
Well, lately, it's actually been a Bible verse that I've just been reading over and over and over again the last few weeks, actually. And it's 1 John 3:8, in the last part of that verse, which says, the reason the Son of God appeared was to destroy the devil's work.
Mm.
And for me, like I take so much comfort in the fact that the messes that we see in the world around us, in our own communities, in our own homes, all those messes that we see, sometimes like we can just feel like it's just the devil is messing with the good stuff. But Jesus came to fix that, and not just on the cross. Like he keeps redeeming it. He
Mm.
keeps, moving through the world and taking that mess and fixing it as he goes. And I take a lot of personal comfort in that, just
Mm.
that he's, the Bible says he destroys the devil's work. He doesn't just tweak it. He destroys what the devil is trying to do, and he brings it back to his glory. And so I take so much comfort in that. And I think that kind of shines through in my writing as well, is that, no matter how messed up life can get, God is going to destroy the devil's work. And I think he does it in our lives too, when we submit to him.
Oh, yeah. What a wonderful encouragement. It's so true. I don't think I've ever thought about that verse. I don't even know if I've heard it. So I appreciate you sharing that so much, because my goodness, it is comforting.
It is.
Because sometimes it does seem like there is just so many attacks, and Satan is just sending those fiery darts, and there's no relief or no comfort. And knowing that Jesus came and he has already overcome the world, he has
Mm-hmm.
defeated him, and he will do it again and again for us, is
Yeah.
such a wonderful encouragement. Thank you so much, Patricia. My goodness. Before we go, why don't you let our listeners know where they can get this wonderful book, Green Pastures, and where they can reach out to you and get on your email list.
Oh, sure. Green Pastures is going to be hitting the shelves on March 18th. So by the time you're listening to this, that will probably be in the past. So March 18th, it did hit the shelves, shall we say. And you can find it at Christian bookstores, hopefully in Walmarts and Targets. You can order it in through any book retailer. You can get Green Pastures in. So it'll be available everywhere March 18th and beyond. And if you'd like to connect with me, patriciajohns.com is my website. You can find me on social media. I'm around. And if you sign up for my for my newsletter, there is a link on my website to sign up for my newsletter. I have giveaways and books by other authors. If you like Amish romance, you'll enjoy my newsletter. So Let's put it that way.
Wonderful. Yes. And I will have all those links in the show notes so that you, our listeners, do not have to scroll. You could just kind of look right down in your podcast app and click the link. So it'll be very easy and simple. Patricia, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your heart and sharing those wonderful encouragements and just for the work that you do. These stories are amazing. And I just am so happy and grateful that I got a chance to talk with you today.
Thank you so much. It was really nice to be here.
If you enjoyed today's show, be sure to hit subscribe and tap the bell to get notified of new episodes. We love blessing our listeners with exclusive interviews and, of course, amazing books. Each month, we host a themed book giveaway where you can win a selection of Christian romance novels and a few extra goodies, too. This month's theme is Timeless Love. We're giving away 7 powerful Christian historical romances by best-selling and award-winning authors. From courageous women and sweeping adventures to heartfelt journeys of grief, redemption, and enduring faith, these stories will inspire and uplift you. Whether you're listening as the episode drops or catching up later, no worries. You'll always find the link to the most current giveaway on our website, christianromancepodcast.com. Thanks so much for listening, and until next time, keep your faith, share the love, and happy reading.